Hello, my name is Shane Latham. I'm a missionary in Brazil, and I'm just finishing up with my family a year in the U.S. as we've traveled and been speaking in different churches around America. We head back to Brazil a month from now. It is now January 15th, 2011. Through this video, I would like to introduce a book I just finished writing. It's taken about 5 years to finish this thing. It is the first of 3 books in the Wisdom Spiral trilogy. So this one is book O, and O is here on the symbol. Stands for opportunity. The paradigm is opportunity plus relationships equals influence, and the idea is that since the beginning, God has been giving mankind opportunity to build relationships, and although we occupy our time with resources, responsibilities, experiences, and ideas, really life is all about relationships. And in all the opportunities of life, there are these relationships embedded, and how we treat people will determine how much influence we have. And influence is important because that is the currency we use to find a significant life and fulfill our part in the Missio Dei, or the sending of God. And as God has sent His Son, He has also sent us. And so with influence, we can represent Him and fulfill our task here on earth. So basically, you have in this symbol different components. You have all the chapters and different individual symbols. You also have the story of redemption that runs in the center here, kind of hieroglyphics there of Genesis through Revelation. So in between the chapters of the book, in kind of the tone of a tribal elder around a campfire telling the story from Genesis all the way through Revelation, we have that story running. But then the chapters themselves teach the concept of the wisdom spiral, and also we have our story, my wife and I, our marriage restoration, our kid Gabriel, who had an accident and arrived at the hospital without life and was brought back with CPR and went through a coma, and today, thank God, he's doing great. But all of the lessons we learned through that terrible opportunity, and how opportunities come to us every day, but we don't get to pick whether they're good or pleasant or terrifying, but we do get to pick what we do with those opportunities. And so I just thought I'd start today by reading a few pages from the first chapter. The first chapter is called A Look in the Mirror, and get a drink of coffee. And here we go. And it starts with 2 quotes, one from Louis Garth Hubbard, and the other one is from Switchfoot. "My timepiece and my name belong to you now," grandfather said kindly. "I cannot ask you every year on your birthday how you have treated these gifts. You must ask yourself for me. What have I done with my name? What have I done with my time?" Second quote from Switchfoot. "This is your life. Are you who you want to be? This is your life. Is it everything you've dreamed that it would be when the world was younger and you had everything to lose?" In the humming solitude of the airplane bathroom, I splashed water on my face, slowly uncovering my eyes to take a long look in the mirror. You may be familiar with this ritual. I'm sure there are 1,000 others like it. Have you ever stared blankly at the horizon, or slowly sipped a cup of coffee as you release yourself into the limbo certain questions can create? All present action becomes suspended between the mesmerizing pictures of where we've been and the hope of what our lives might become. On a Brazil-bound flight in May 2004, I was having one of those time-pausing moments, pondering a question like, is this it? Or will this turn out to be the significant life I've been searching for? The in-flight mirror-staring routine began sometime after my family moved to Brazil to do mission work when I was 5. This was my way of freezing a frame to consider who I was becoming. Of course, the questions weren't always that deep. I still remember my first one. Will I be able to speak like these people? In response, I let out a series of sounds like Alana Kaduba Naguda, followed by the question, I wonder if there was any Portuguese in that. My childhood in Brazil was a Tom Sawyer-like existence. I had my own pet monkey, Parrot, and Samson, the German Shepherd who eventually ate the monkey and the parrot. Our house was full of lizards, occasionally enormous toads, and I kept a messy community of pooping pigeons, which I tried in vain to train into messenger birds. Missionary kid life in Brazil's northeastern coastal region was all about avoiding snakes, tarantulas, scorpions, and schoolwork. We chewed on sugarcane, swam in rivers, and climbed trees to eat guava, cashews, and mangoes the size of footballs. Although we were considered poor by U.S. standards, and many of my clothes were either made by Mom or received as second-hand donations, my brother, sister, and I were convinced that we were the luckiest kids on the planet. Possibly we were. On a 1980 flight from Fortaleza to Atlanta, the mirror reflected a 9-year-old Brazilian soccer player who loved God, wanted to do right, and was always seeking a secret door into Narnia. On a Miami-Sao Paulo flight 3 years later, I saw in the mirror a confused and impressionable 12-year-old who had recently stolen his uncle's cigarettes and Playboy magazines. In 1987, on a northbound flight, I saw a 16-year-old rebel whose dreams were deeply invested in money, sex, and fame. He was waiting only to hold his high school diploma so he could flip off his parents' missionary life in the church, as he had done with God 4 years earlier. In a 1990 mirror headed back to Brazil, I saw a summer missions intern who was wavering between his teenage dreams of self-indulgence and the inexplicable pull of God on his heart. Thanks to an international student from Uruguay, an influential wrestling coach, and a compelling art teacher, the way of Jesus had come alive in him again. His question went something like this: can God truly forgive me? The mirror reviewed images of him buying and selling drugs, breaking and entering, visiting prostitutes, and boldly challenging God. If you exist, come kill me. A voice of despair whispered to him, there's no forgiveness for the things you've done. Your path is set. Yet a voice of hope said, those the Father has given me will come to me, and I will never reject them. John 6:37. Maybe you have heard these voices as well. As you take the opportunity to read this book, and we develop a limited relationship, printed words, and stories aloud, my intention is to influence you to choose the truth of hope above the lie of despair. Despair says you cannot escape your past. The best you can do is give in to your lusts and try to live a pleasure-filled present. Hope sounds something like this: you were made for significant life, to make an impact for eternity, and you can do it. So that's a few pages in the first chapter. It goes on to explain, it goes on to include subchapters of surprise by influence. The next subchapter is the 3 R's, beauty from ashes, and it describes our story of discovery of influence and how our marriage crashed as we were working for God in Brazil, and God gave us a story of restoration. But through all that painful time, we learned some things that are discussed in the first chapter. So I'll be reading a little bit more and probably in the second post. But if you want to find out more about the Wisdom Spiral O, which will be out here a week from the 15th of January, check out Facebook page, the Wisdom Spiral book. And you can find the first chapter printed there, some discussions, and hopefully we'll connect. So talk to you later.